If you're not too worried about outsourcing and its effect on the U.S. economy, you may want to think again, especially if you take time to read Outsourcing America. The book by Ron Hira and Anil Hira digs into the reasons American employers send jobs overseas, what that means to the competitiveness of the U.S. economy, and the policy changes that could help to reverse the trend or at least minimize the negative impacts here at home. Dr. Ron Hira is co-author of Outsourcing America. He teaches public policy at Rochester Institute of Technology. And John Twigg is CEO of Ascent Systems, Incorporated, here in our region, Pittsburgh. Welcome. Good to see both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us on.
The premise of the book, I've heard good and bad about outsourcing. I've had people sit in that very chair and tell me this is a great thing, it's lowering the cost of doing business, Americans are enjoying the benefits of all these low-wage workers across the United States, and we should stop trying to just, wring our hands about it and figure out how to live with it and even embrace it. In your view, it's a little more complicated perhaps than that.
That's right. I think that's a partial truth. It's a truth. It is good, and there are definitely benefits both for the U.S. as well as for developing countries, but there's also costs to this, and there are negative effects that we should be addressing in terms of job losses, downward wage pressure, and questions about future technological innovation. If we send a lot of high-tech and high-wage jobs, which is happening right now overseas, what kind of impact does that have not only now on workers, but also our capacity for innovation in the future?
Well, and is that what's different now? Because I remember a lot of the same sort of hand-wringing in the 1980s. Then it was Japan. They were going to clean our clock. There was no future for the United States, and we've managed to coexist and make that work. So is there something really different now than what we were dealing with then?
Yeah, there is something different. It's not. There was a clearer method of responding to Japan, and that was to improve our manufacturing quality. So you could look at the Japanese quality products, and they were better in a lot of cases, and so American manufacturers were able to respond. What's different about this now is instead of American companies losing market share and competing head-to-head with Indian or Chinese companies, what's happening is instead American companies are competing workers across borders. And that means that it's much more complicated in terms of trying to respond to that, because now you've got companies taking the latest tools and technologies to that low-cost foreign labor, and that makes it much more difficult then for U.S. workers to respond. And we're talking about high-wage, high-tech jobs too.
That's true. It was let's give up the factory jobs because we're going to have software engineers, and now we find out the software engineering is being done in India and in other places, and that's really what's relevant to Ascent. Has that really been something you've had to respond to?
Yes. Before 2 years ago, we didn't really have to worry about it. And we became concerned as we read more of the issues in the press, all that. What we decided to do is, we like Pittsburgh, and by the way, we heard all this negative stuff that was going on about steel loss and the loss of manufacturing and everything. As we looked and read in the press, we thought, you know what, here goes another industry. People are just selling out this whole information technology industry and ready to send it overseas. And we thought what we'd try to do is to create a business model that let us combat that. And what we did is, about a year and a half ago, put that into execution. We've had a 7-0 record so far of keeping jobs that would have gone overseas here, projects. And consequently, we grew our business 80% last year. So we think it's a good model for other companies in the region. And we believe it's certainly the case that Pittsburgh can compete globally in the information technology space.
Well, and is that part of the ticket, try to figure out a better way to do things so that you can stay ahead of this curve?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if people don't realize, I think, the scale and scope of outsourcing and the fact that it's going to be growing into beyond just software jobs, into financial services, as one of the major offshore outsourcing firms puts it, the CEO of that company puts it, any task that can be sent down a wire is potentially offshoreable. If you think about that, that's a large number of our services jobs, and again, high-wage jobs in the U.S. And so if you're not thinking about this as a worker, you should be thinking about it and thinking about what you need to do to make yourself a little bit more immune to the process.
And John, I know recently what you talked about what Pittsburgh might be able to do, or our region, to really make this more of an opportunity, perhaps, or a challenge. Yeah.
Well, what we did is the Institute for Electrical and Electronics Engineers here in Pittsburgh, it's got about 3,000 members in Pittsburgh. We undertook a new initiative called Division 2010 Initiative, And we looked at this whole structural change issue as an engineering problem. So what we want to do is we want to determine what would it take to make Pittsburgh more of a high-tech leading area for the world, much like Bangalore, India. Well, you have to ask yourself, is it really in our best interest to have Bangalore, for example, be the one of the IT leading areas for the world? Why not Pittsburgh? So we think that with new models, new business models, and new techniques, and some innovations, we can claim that prize back here.
Wow. So emerging an initiative, you're just kind of getting it off the ground?
We're just getting in. We just started it last night with Ron's talk.
And Ron, just a few seconds left, but I wonder, in your view, is the government or companies obviously are going to do what's in the best interest of companies? Are policymakers, especially the government, paying enough attention to this issue?
No, absolutely not. And that's one of the reasons we wrote the book. Is this is not written for experts or academics. This is written for the general public, because we felt like the information that the public had was not sufficient, and that they need to talk to their elected officials to put a little bit of pressure on them to try to respond to that. And that's not to punish companies, but we need to start to invest in different initiatives and help out some of those workers in terms of job loss and the like. And we're not doing enough from a policy perspective.
All right, Ron Hira, the book is called Outsourcing America. Look for it, I'm sure, online or in a bookstore near you. John Twigg from Ascent, thank you both so much, and good luck with this new initiative. It sounds exciting. Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
And we'll be back with more of our Region's Business in just a moment. Stay with us.